Hey gamers, I have made a terrible mistake. I've been quiet recently, and in large part that's because I've been on Retroachievements again. Well, actually the Retroachievements have been trucking along quietly in the background since the last video where I mentioned them. That was probably a Pirates or something. At time of recording, I am comfortably within the top 5% of all gamers in fake points that don't do anything, and have completed 26 video games, including the same Sesame Street game 5 times, the same Where's Waldo game 3 times, and a homebrew Game Boy Color game about the Simpsons steamed ham sketch that was horrible. Yes, go look at my... I didn't remember this, but you can look at the Aurora Borealis. Good lord, are those goblins? Goblins draw near. We can do karate chop, we can do punch, we can do cockroach dance. Simo did a karate chop. He remembers he doesn't fight karate. Oh, he gads. Superintendent, it's your turn. We can do a sumo kick. We can do a regular kick. We can do boring stories. Let's do a sumo kick. Chamas did the sumo kick. I don't even know what a sumo kick is. He doesn't fight sumo. The goblins doesn't seem hurted. You loose the bell. I can't believe I loosed the bell to the goblins. And 6 actual video games, including, of course, Atris NES and Gex, Deep Cover Gecko. I don't just game now. I request games I want achievements to be added to and wait patiently for someone who knows how to use the computer to come along and do that for me. When the original Time Splitters finally got achievements, I was the second person on the website to conquer it. Number 1 was day 1. I can't compete with that. I do kinda wish there was more Time Splitters OG content on this channel though, so maybe sometime I'll do you a guide or whatever. I don't know, man. Long as we're hanging out. I do retro achievements on and off, leaving for a few months and coming back in hot. This time in particular, I had a need to achieve. I first played through Onimusha Tactics on the Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance was a banger console actually. I think I still have my SP around here somewhere. Everything's chunky but colourful, and while there was a lot of total slop, a surprising amount of classics live on there. I think I picked this title in particular because if I squinted I could pretend it was Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. The game was fine. It's very basic, but the set never asked me to do anything too tedious, and I'm thankful for that. The story was frequently doing insane shit that I could barely even pass. I think it's both translated poorly and also the source text itself is madness. You get a good roster of characters, but as the game goes on it becomes increasingly obvious that only like 4 of them are actually any good, and everyone else you bring on a mission is basically just taking up space. I also ended up using speed up a fair bit through some of the longer battle animations, which I do normally try desperately to avoid in games. I tend to think that if something's worth doing at all, it's worth doing at 1 times speed. None of that matters, of course, because Onimusha Tactics is not on the list. The website said it took me 16 hours of prime gaming time to master it, which isn't bad, but nor was it fast enough. To sate my lust for gamer points, I needed achievements right away. I got weird with it. Bubble Wrap DS is a homebrew bubble wrap simulator for the Nintendo Dual Screen Entertainment System. You touch the bottom screen to pop the bubbles. If I talk about it for any longer, I'll have spent more time explaining it than it took to master. I also played a homebrew claw machine game, and a game where you do jigsaw puzzles of Korean people. The whole blitz took about 37 minutes and granted me 3 new video game masteries. And that got me thinking. The DS was the place to be for shovelware. Within its roster must lurk the largest number of counterfeit gamer points by volume of any machine ever made. Surely there's gotta be more games where you just do jigsaw puzzles. I think you see where this is going. This is a German jigsaw puzzle game. You touch on the bottom screen to move the pieces, or the whole screen, depending on how the game's feeling. Sometimes you even pick up the bits of the puzzle you've already done and slide them around for no reason at all, and it takes you a minute to work out that's what's happened because the point you actually pressed was so far away from it. Luckily, you have this little jigsaw radar up top to tell you where all the bits have ended up. You're zoomed in too far to really tell otherwise. The game contains one single piece of music, which I had to turn off after it started to seep into my brain, and I could hear it when the game wasn't running. There are a total of 25 pictures to jigsawify, almost all of which contain huge sections of solid colour. The achievement set wants you to do each of them 3 times. I've been rewatching a lot of old Something Awful era Let's Plays recently.
It's a lot of possibilities.
This is it. It's the literal
Jake?
Sorry.
Oh.
Holy shit! Holy shit!
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh!
Like that Lionel Richie music video.
It was a different time, and you don't expect everything to land quite the same, like 12 years on. But I was shocked by how much the men drinking coffee is still so consistently funny. I was laughing out loud even with the bad puzzles menacing me from the other side of the monitor, even though I had to navigate to the defunct Men Drinking Coffee channel now. They changed the name when they left, and now every viewing is tinged with sadness.
Why? It's a game mechanic.
You realise at some point that you're playing retro games while simultaneously watching retro LPs of different retro games, and you wonder why all the stuff you care about happened so long ago. I think that's what this series is about, more than anything. Feeling out of time. I talk about Something Awful a lot, and that's because in a lot of ways I was raised there, as part of a big, bustling community of irony-poisoned maniacs who talked about video games too much. I don't think it was a good place to be, really. The current iteration of the site I cannot speak for, but if you have a time machine handy, I would not recommend going back there. I think in general, big forums are gateways into cool new forms of psychosis that have only existed since the advent of the internet, and haven't been properly studied yet. And at most, any major forum or even subreddit should be completely purged of users and content annually, to keep the discourse from spiraling too far into insanity. But I also know a part of me will always be there, because as soon as I was out, the damage was done. I was older, wiser, and more wary, and I'd never be that excited to be part of a big community ever again. Well, I had that, and my deeply embarrassing time with the UK Battle Rap League don't flop. See my earlier video, Let's Go Rob. And all my other videos where I sneak in little clips or descend into battle rap bears for no reason. Both of these things, naturally, ended when the man behind them turned out to be incredibly shit. I think this is a lot of why I remember the old stuff so well. I was surrounded by other obsessive fans, and that will never come to pass again because I know large fan groups are weird and large groups of any kind are destined to become more and more insular and gross. That's not all it is though. I genuinely just think new shit is worse than the old shit. I've been thinking about how the internet is a completely artificial space recently. Built from nothing but imagination. Conjured wholesale from dreams. We brought form and function to it, in a flash of clashing colours, deep hobbyist lore, and work-in-progress gifs. It was a fun and exciting space when I was a kid, and that wasn't all childhood naivety. The investors hadn't properly gotten their hooks in yet. Over the years, they hammered it into shape, flat and boring, mundane. And now we're here. The year is 2025. There are 5 websites. I've been thinking about how every major innovation for like the past decade has been to take something that works fine and make it a bit worse by injecting more and more ads. The internet is a bloated mess of fake smiles, sanitized speech, and shareholder capital, and I will never and could never again be so enamored by it. I've been watching a lot of Dark Side Phil clips again recently.
Alright.
Controls. I can't shoot anyone whenever I want.
There's a lock-on button. There's a button you hold down, and he points right at a man to shoot him.
How's my M9 bullet full? I don't have an M9. What
Whoa.
the fuck?
It's right there!
It's right.
Go
right,
up!
Right,
Right
there. Right under you.
What?
I mean, what? It's right there.
Down! Down!
DSP has been on the internet since its oldest days, and claims to be the inventor of the Let's Play format. Although, as we all know, Let's Plays were first discovered by eminent scientist and Something Awful forums user, Dr. Slowbeef. Phil first rose to prominence being the only guy out here doing release day playthroughs of console games. All console games, which were recorded by pointing a camera at his television. It shook every time he got mad and punched the coffee table. I first found out about DSP when he was discovered by the Something Awful forums. Hey, you know that weird guy with the camcorder who shows up first in the YouTube search results when you look for basically any video game? Don't suppose any of you ever clicked on one of those videos?
Yeah, we.
Just stand here like an
Well,
asshole.
you can go out during caution mode, you know.
You can go.
You can. You don't have to just sit here.
You have a radar, you can see where they're looking.
Ryan likes to be extra cautious.
Oh look! You found it!
There we.
Nothing to say about the magic M9 that just appeared? Good, this is fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Phil was a storm of unintentional comedy. He wasn't just bad at games, he'd find baffling new ways to fail at them that you'd never even considered a possibility. And he was so viscerally mad the whole time. Mad at the devs, mad at the hardware manufacturers, mad at anyone reflected in the screen. If you ever feel like you're really bad at something, there's probably a video on the internet, if you can find it, where Phil does the same thing an order of magnitude worse, cursing God and Hideo Kojima the whole time. The influx of baffled popularity from the SA goons quickly bumped into his existing anti-following, the Detractors, a group largely composed of former viewers at the time who'd fallen out of favour with the King of Hate. Phil calls himself that sometimes, don't ask. And had dedicated themselves to documenting his most grievous failures, both professional and personal, both IG and IRL. Since then, throughout the course of the last decade, the man has been on an endless downward spiral of madness and despair, fraught with controversies, meltdowns, and capital I incidents. He currently spends most of his waking hours streaming, and most of his streams begging desperately for donations. The streams are mostly viewed by what is now almost overwhelmingly an audience of bemused detractors, who then clip out all the parts where he begs too deep and too greedily, or just goes ballistic, and upload those without the surrounding hours of a sad old man inexpertly playing video games that he doesn't even like. There are so many of these videos, it is an endless stream of content. And none of any of this is good. Well, DSP Tries It episode 147, the Cup Noodles Final Fantasy 15 Special Edition, is in the top 5 videos ever uploaded to YouTube, but considering the huge amount of content, there's gonna be an accidental gem somewhere in there. Phil has, always, done something new and repulsive. There is always fresh drama. It is impossible for him to exist without it. But for the most part, at this stage in his career and life, he's just a miserable man trapped deep in the content mines. A digital prisoner caught in a cage of his own creation. And I feel bad for him. It's impossible not to as a person capable of empathy. But he did it to himself, right? He's still doing it, even now. Every day when he fires up the camera. He's someone who is suffering, but He's also a nasty, hateful little creature. Like if Gollum was on Twitch. And at any point he could just log off. I don't watch because I feel bad for him. I watch because it's an endless, baffling rabbit hole. Not just a train crash, but a wide fractal of crashing trains spiraling out into dimensions that the human brain can't properly pass. That's been going on for solidly 10 years. I can't imagine how a person becomes a Phil. I can't imagine having so much of your life on the internet. And I can't imagine doing the same bad and wrong things over and over every day, forever. I could stare in quiet bewilderment for hundreds of hours and come no closer to a conclusion. I think it's important sometimes, in times of strife, any point where you feel baffled and overwhelmed, to just stop and ask yourself, hang on, am I just being DSP about this? I've been quiet recently, and that's because I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos from a decade ago, or from a man whose soul fell out a decade ago. I've largely been doing it because all of the new stuff is terrible. I've not only been doing this, I've been playing a lot of old video games too, and reading some old books.
I've sent Feely and Keeley ahead to look for shelter. Would you please give Beaufort a hand starting that fire?
Who the fuck is Beaufort? Oh shit. No spoilers, but I just finished The Fellowship of the Ring for the first time since I was a child, and you're not gonna believe what that fucker Boromir just did. The Lord of the Rings is a beautiful and thoroughly comfortable tome. The most classic of bedtime stories. Reading it feels like being ushered off to sleep by a kindly but easily distracted granddad who is very interested in geography and making weird little rhymes. But Lord of the Rings is not on the list. I think it's important to remember that it's not necessarily a changing of the times that made everything so shitty. Mine was the era where the YouTube homepage was PewDiePie, Tobuscus, and Darkside Phil. Back in my Something Awful years, I was experiencing extremely deep cuts from YouTube. Stuff I'd never have been able to search out in the wild, hidden deep below where the algorithm will ever take you. I found people I liked from being around them and telling bad gamer jokes back and forth in forum threads, and then I realised they made stuff and obsessively watched everything they'd ever put on the internet. Naturally. Cool YouTube effect. H-Bomber Guy used to be a Something Awful Forums Let's Player. He was terrible and boring, and sometimes a dick about it in the threads. I used to heckle him on there. He did a video once where he was beefing with some random YouTube camcorder pointed at the TV guy. Wasn't Phil, there were more than one of them. And he tried to prove that his videos were better. Mathematically. Cringiest thing I've ever seen. God, I wish that video still existed. He also did a show called Name Missing, where he ran around his mum's house making edgy atheist jokes, and had hair. This has all since been scrubbed from the internet. I might be the only person alive who remembers. Although, to this day, all of the videos he makes where he talks about video games at all are complete shit. I was thinking recently about how the modern world is like the shittiest celebrities in all of human history. In olden times, people gathered at village inns and told tales of knights who battled dragons and conquerors who battled whole nations. Before the turn of the century, we had people who did the good cocaine and drove sports cars into swimming pools. Now we have people who go on the computer, and a worrying amount of them also solicit underage fans on Discord. Never has a class of people been more concerned with the age of consent laws. Internet content creators are almost exclusively terrible, and internet content is sludge. There are like 3 good YouTubers and 0 good streamers. To be entertaining for the duration of a whole stream, especially for the freaks who go 8 hours at a run, is just impossible. Doubly so for gamers, the worst and least entertaining of all people. Starting to take internet content creation seriously at any level is a process which saps the human body of its soul, leaving behind a beige automaton with a focus group tested smile. They do it to themselves, and I have only contempt for these people. I've been thinking I should treat this YouTube channel more like a weird blog with moving pictures and strange sounds. I think we all should. We'll build a new, secret YouTube down here beneath the surface, further than the algorithm will ever take you, and we'll dance forever in the shade. 10 years on, I'll be coming back to Legis's Let's Play of Phoenix Point and Whiskey Brown's Let's Play of Morrowind. Just suggestions, guys, but, you know, get on it. I first came to something awful after reading a bunch of articles by Richard Lotex Kayanka, founder and then owner of the site. He wrote with a vicious contempt that spoke to me as a depressed young adult, and I thought his was the funniest shit I'd ever witnessed. I can't remember which article it was that made me cave in and give the man my $10, but it were one of them. I think that a lot of people there at the time felt similarly. There were folk from all walks there, of course. The Goons were a strange and wildly diverse band, but a deep undercurrent of edgy, fuck the world, everyone's an idiot but me, teen angst could not be ignored. And Lotex himself was at the forefront of it, the biggest cynic on the internet. So, hindsight's 20/20, but maybe the fact that he was in his 30s and thought exactly the way I did about the world, as someone who'd left school so recently I was still half worried that they'd call me back, maybe should have been a red flag. The man killed himself 4 years ago, which is tragic, but it can't distract from just who Lotex was while he was alive. The man was a cynic, and nothing. There was nothing under the edginess. It wasn't a veneer. He was a pure 24-carat asshole, an angst elemental. In his 45 years, Lotex complained about countless things, abused 2 wives, got beat up by a German filmmaker, real good, and never once did anything fueled by any emotion other than spite. I left the forum before he died, but long after we'd all seen him for what he was. I cut ties, changed my screen name, and find the whole thing a depressing and embarrassing episode in hindsight. But it was nonetheless a formative and important period of my life. I think there's still some Lotex in me, deep down. I don't think there could ever not be. I am a cynic, right down to the bones. It is terminal. Every day that passes, the world around me grows just a little bit more miserable, as I grow a little more miserable and a little more vicious in my misery. My contempt for the planet Earth and all its nations of witless podcast hosts and media influencers is boundless and depthless. I find this place offensive. And I've read a lot more Kayanka than Bukowski, but in the words of Modest Mouse frontman Isaac Brock, who would want to be such an asshole? I think I've run out of jigsaws. That was 75 jigsaws. Why have I done this? Please like the video and comment if you've ever played a video game so bad that it made you have an existential crisis.